All right, with me today, I have Almalik Taylor, the founder of Fathers Fighting for Families Outreach Ministries. Almalik was part of, he was there for the 6th annual symposium on greater father-family involvement in Pittsburgh last week. He was an absolute star. We have so many incredible people in the state of Pennsylvania who are committed to fatherhood and advocating for fathers and being able to help fathers be in the lives of their children when they are not being allowed or having that opportunity be minimalized. But it was really great having someone who's gone through it as directly as what he has, and also someone who is taking action even now, as he still is raising his 2 sons and he's trying to make a difference. So I was really happy when he agreed to be able to speak to me today. So again, this is Almalik Taylor, the founder of Fathers Fighting for Families Outreach Ministries. How you doing, Almalik?
Good morning. I'm actually doing great. Things have, ever since the conference, things have really been sort of busy. I've gotten a lot of calls and emails, and so I'm actually happy that we've gotten to this point. There needs to be a voice, and people need to start paying attention.
All right, well, let's get rolling here. If you can just tell us a little bit about your ministry and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, as you pointed out, I am a single dad with 2 teenage sons. My oldest son, Andre, is 17, and my youngest, Andrew, is 14. Currently, I run a small handyman service. I can build a house from the foundation to the shingles and everything in between. So, I do that service as well as the ministry. Through the ministry, what I provide is independent workshops. Everything is, out of pocket currently, so it's still small. However, I do offer these workshops in addition to life skills trainings as well. The workshops are available for women. We have Handyman, which is a basic home improvements workshop for women. And then we have Do-It-Yourself Dads, which is basically the same workshop series. However, we add a life skills portion because of the fact that a lot of the men that we work with, unfortunately, I'll say fortunately, they have some barriers. And so we try to help them overcome those barriers. And then we have Chaos to Control, which is a 3-part workshop series for our at-risk youth. The 3 parts are the importance of decision-making, stress management, and conflict resolution. These are very engaging workshops. I've actually facilitated them in South Carolina with Project Go, which is Project Gang Out. Facilitated them over a number of years in Philadelphia. So now I'm bringing it here where it's definitely needed.
Wow, that's really incredible. You got a lot going on there. And at the heart of it is trying to make a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very clear. Very clear. All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about Andre and Andrew?
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, these are probably the easiest part of my life as far as their behavior. They're very well behaved. Their grades are kept up. Andre is heavily into sports. He plays football. They both go to Valley High School. Andre plays football, basketball, and he runs track. He's into, weight training and different things of the sort. And he's a junior in high school. I'm like, he's at that point where he's going to be a senior next year, soon going away to college. And it's like, he was just a baby yesterday. I'm not ready for him to go yet. However, if that's his path, that's his path. Andrew does play sports. He plays baseball currently, but Andrew is more into cooking and growing vegetables and things of the sort. He wants to actually be a chef who grows his own vegetables and herbs and things of the sort. So I promote that kind of stuff. And as I said, I get a lot of compliments because of their behavior. They have They also have, I hate to use the word step, but just to make it clear, they also have two stepbrothers, 13 and 12, Terrence and Tyler, who, they're interactive with. And I think it's sort of because it's been just me and them for a while, having that outside, that extra influence from other kids, from their mom, Lydia. It's been real positive.
Well, I got to tell you a couple of things. First off, our one daughter is a sophomore, and you're right. It's bittersweet.
I know.
You can see it coming.
It's not ready sometimes. You're not ready.
That's right. The other thing is, too, both of our girls, I have reason to go into the schools somewhat regularly. And one of the things that is just so, when you feel good as a parent, I bump into staff, particularly the custodians and the people who work in the kitchens at both the middle school and the high school. They have come up to me unsolicited because they know who I am. Right. And they compliment me that both of our daughters are just the best kids in the world. And we always talk to them, right? And that's part of parenting, is that you're instilling into them, because they're people, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that you're doing something okay. All the times you want to like throttle them, right? But when those kinds of things pop up, I mean, it's really fulfilling as a parent, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, we're working through it. I'm preparing myself, and it is what it is. They help me, with my handyman service, all four of the boys as well, actually. And so that sort of helps. It's like what I'm striving to do in the community, I'm actually living it. I'm not just some guy out here saying, okay, I want to come out and help our youth and blah, 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 and our single dads and blah. No, I'm actually living it, so I'm striving to influence not only the kids that are, under my watch, but also, other kids in the community.
Outstanding, my friend. So just a little more generally, what is it like for a single father family? What's that experience like?
I could speak all day on that, and unfortunately, most of it's going to be negative. The thing is, we've adapted to a culture that favors the mom, and I'm not saying I don't ever want to get confused. The fact that I'm pro dad does not mean I'm anti mom. The thing, what people have to understand is, if we are focusing on the wellness of our children, then the thing is, there has to be a balance. And what I've found, unfortunately, through the system and through my experiences, that there is a serious unwillingness to offer the same services to a single dad as to a single mom. There's a lot of suspicion. You have to verify a lot of things as a single dad, because, the average person is like, what's going on here? Like, where's mom? Like, why does he have, maybe something's wrong with mom? Why does it have to be that way? It takes two people to make a child. It takes two to raise them. So if you're going to offer assistance to a single mom, then offer that same assistance to a single dad. Just balance the scales. I have, I've had to literally verify who I was going to pick up my son in the middle of the school year, when I'm the only one who had been dropping him off and picking him up the entire year. And I remember one day, he was literally within eyeshot. He even called me, Dad. I'm like, hey, boy. Security guard, hearing him say dad, still comes to me and asks, who are you, sir? I explain, like, I'm his dad. I'm coming to pick him up. It literally took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of me standing there with this guy, waiting for them to verify. Another teacher had to come out. What? That type of, it's unnecessary harassment, seems like to me. And even with the welcoming to agencies, the last time I went to an agency, I sat down. I literally watched this caseworker joke around with the previous client. I sat down and she literally just sat there and she stared at me with this blank stare. And so obviously I started to feel a little uncomfortable, like, hello. And she says, how can I help you? That alone, just that type of greeting, it sort of creates a resistance, because you start thinking to yourself, okay, here we go again. And then you're going to get a bunch of excuses on why you don't get the same services a single mom gets. I've been told, oh, well, we don't have as many services for single dads because there aren't as many single dads. And I've always been confused in regards to the gender specific agencies. Like, when did single parenthood and assistance for a single parent become gender specific? And bottom line is, if we're worried about our kids, we have to be worried about that too.
Okay. All right. So I guess I digging a little deeper, can you talk about some more of your experiences with the human services system as a single father?
I have literally been sent on hit or miss missions, I call them, meaning I've known a lot of single moms, and I would literally have a single mom say, listen, Malik, all right, you need to go here, ask for this person, tell them this, and they should give you this and this because I just got it. And so many times, I mean, more than a person would be comfortable with, I followed those instructions to the letter and did not receive even half of what the individual, the single mom received. I remember once going into what was it? Urban League. They were doing utility assistance. And, my son and I, my oldest son, at that time, it was just my oldest son and I. My youngest son was still with his mom in South Carolina. I lived in Philadelphia, and I imagine we'll get to that in a little bit. But what happened, like I said, is I just got to a point where I realized, like, I may as well not even try. And I got to, that's where the handyman service idea came through, because the lady, she asked me a bunch of questions and gave me like a really, really blatantly hard time. It was blatant. And so eventually she says, okay, we'll go over, have a seat. Now, I'm the type of guy that when I'm in a waiting room, I generally like look around, read pictures, read statistics. If I read things, what the agency is about, whatever, And so I see this huge map on the wall, and it was color coded. And it was a map for the previous 7 years of service. 81% of the clients served over a 7-year period were all single moms consistently. And now I questioned that after I was denied any assistance. And I was like, well, is this like a woman's agency? Is this just for single moms? And then I started to ask other questions. What's the difference between a single mom and a single dad? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand why so much is being poured into only half of the solution. Yeah, we can take care of mom, and we can offer training and we can, housing and all that stuff. And that's fine and dandy, but it only builds up that one side. What about this other side? Everything is imbalanced. And then, like I said, the only thing is we're just wondering when are things going to be a little more equal. I've heard all this equality talk for a while, and it sort of goes both ways, or it should.
I think we're starting to see that interjected a little bit in terms of equality.
Right.
Is it equality or is it something else? Relative to this issue that we're talking about with fathers, and most certainly, we always say fathers and mothers get different but equally important things of their children. So children need both mom
Absolutely.
and dad involved
Absolutely.
in their lives. That's right. And sometimes the system, because you're correct, there's a lot out there for women and mothers. And you know what? Good. It's needed. And
Absolutely.
we 100% support that. But when you have all of that out there speaking and working on behalf of mothers, ultimately, and very little on behalf of fathers, ultimately fathers get drowned out, forgotten in those types of things. Absolutely. That's understandable that that's your experience, but it's always important, again, hearing it from people who've gone through it themselves personally. And to that point, when we had spoken before, you had dug in a little bit in terms of talking about how these kinds of things lead to resentment within men to the point where it makes them resistant to services. So I think that would be helpful for people to hear from someone who's been through that, how that process occurs, because they may not understand what's occurring with it.
Well, the thing is, I often basically illustrate this, or I described it like this. You have, unfortunately, when you're dealing with individuals who are in any situation where they need assistance, generally there's a whole backstory. There's a whole backstory. It's not like someone just, oh, I had a great job, I lost it, now I need assistance. There's usually a backstory. And when you're talking about men, most of us who go through the at-risk stuff, the traumas, the day-to-day being a guy stuff, being told to suck it up and forget about your emotions, all that kind of stuff. There is a little boy who's been completely neglected and forgotten. That boy is inside. However, because of the denials for this, or the lack of extra hugs and different, the miseducation in regards to being a male, and then the treatment as a male, what it does is it creates this type of protector, a bodyguard who protects that little boy. He protects that little boy. And so whenever this man, or this visual man, is in an agency where he needs assistance or anything like that, it's so delicate. This is a delicate character. It only takes a roll of the eyes, a heavy sigh, some type of body language, maybe a word. It only takes that to bring out that bodyguard. That bodyguard comes out immediately. This is a situation where my little boy is about to be hurt. We're not going to let it happen. So that resistance is there. So now it gets to a point where you have guys who don't even really try anymore. They don't believe in any of this stuff anymore. And they resort to things, unfortunately, that they think are gonna be good to help them take care of their children, when they're actually putting themselves in more jeopardy, But I think that I actually concluded, and I'm still on the fence about it, but it almost seems as though there's like a specific purpose to I guess discouraging men, discourage these guys from even coming in here. We don't want to do anything for them. We got our ladies to take care of. We don't have time for that. But once again, you have to go to the foundation. You have to go to the original, our original mission, and that's to protect and provide for the health and welfare of our children, regardless of what mom feels about dad, regardless of what they've been through, regardless of how many hateful things they've said to each other. That kid does not hate him the way she does. To that kid, that is dad, just like that is mom. They are equally as important. Those kids need both equally as much. So I think, like I said, that is something that really needs to be not only addressed, but there has to be a blatant effort to make this happen. We have to explain to our moms, we are not excluding you. We are not striving to take anything from you. We are simply asking that dads receive the same type of treatment, that dads be treated just as important, the dad be included in things that are going on with the kid. You know what I mean? So it's not asking for much. It almost seems like a no-brainer. You know, like it seems like how are we even having this conversation? Like, why are we talking about who's more important, the mom or the dad? And like, I don't know, but I'm glad we're here.
So three things, okay? Number one, I tell people when I talk to them about this with fathers, we are born by nature to do it on your own, buck it up, those kinds of things, and then are socially like driven. And so
Yeah.
really pounds and pounds and pounds at us. So that's what you're dealing with a man most times, very often. The other thing is, one of the big things in the human services field today is trauma-informed care, right? And you just touched on that. A lot of time, most of the times, you hear it relative to children or women. You very rarely hear it spoken about with men. And from what you just talked about, if you drill down and utilize that trauma-informed approach in working with a father and get at those kinds of things and take more of a mindset with a man like that, it can maybe help you to be able to drill down or engage with fathers a little bit better. And then the third thing is relative to this issue of, and we kind of, when we talked about this earlier, you said this is going to be easy, and I kind of said something. It isn't going to be easy because this is the way people have been doing things for so long. This is the mindsets, and I talk about the Florida bill, $60 million for responsible fatherhood. I won't get into responsible fatherhood right now. Right? But it's easier to cut a $60 million check and just start throwing it around for programs than it is to try to do the reform, the systemic kind of things necessary to be able to make systems a little more father friendly.
Absolutely.
And be able to allow those fathers who really want to be in the lives of their children, who are on the margins that you just described, that this is the straw that breaks the camel's back and they're just like, I'm out, right? This is the thing that does that a lot of the times. Now, again, there are fathers who need to be engaged, and we are like, we want to throttle them, right? Because they make us look bad and they're hurting the cause, those kinds of things. So
but there aren't many. There aren't many. I think it's a small percentage that's being, utilized for a specific purpose, because I know unfortunately, countless single dads who basically refuse to even think about resorting to the system, even think about utilizing any of those resources, because they don't feel like there's going to be anything productive that comes out of it. And just that discouragement, even a lot of times, causes the dad to just give mom most of the custody, because it's a lot easier for her. It's a lot easier for her to get housing and food and whatever, training. So a lot of times dads just throw their hands up and just call me whenever I can see them,
And be a deferential, because they know if they do make a fuss, it'll cause a mess. And it could be harmful for the children in terms of like the chaos and the tension. So dads will just step away, just keep the peace. And not make things messy.
Yeah. And unfortunately, though, ultimately our kids suffer as a result.
We cannot say that enough.
And the kids may not even understand that dad is just trying to take a peaceful approach. They look at it as maybe abandonment. And then sometimes it's reinforced. Mom gets mad and she's like, see, he doesn't come around. But the kids don't know, well, he actually tried to several times, but you denied him, so we got to get past that. We got to understand that dads, we are just as important as moms.
That's right. Absolutely. So, hey, now you do have some background in terms of working within the human services system. Right?
I do.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, informally, I worked in South Carolina. I volunteered a lot of time with Project Go, which was a Project Gang Out. It was it was just a program basically to get gang members to denounce their, affiliation and get their lives together. Officially in the human services started in Philadelphia in 2011. I worked in several facets of the human services. I worked as a peer counselor, workforce developer, job developer, life coach. And I facilitated my own independent workshops within these agencies. So I've dealt with numerous single moms and not many single dads. It actually got to a point when I became more acclimated to, the system and how things worked. Then I started to try to make my own moves in regards to, I literally would go to the directors of programs that I worked for or agencies I worked for. And I would ask, can I please, all the men who come through, can you put them on my caseload? I don't care how big my caseload is. I just want to have all the men. And most times that request was granted, because the thing is, I can understand your pain. I understand what you're going through in the system. And now I'm on this side. So I know what's available. I know where to send you to get the appropriate help. And that's another thing I think that needs to take place. We need to have more single fathers, not only volunteering in these agencies. We need single fathers who are employed there, who can deal, because of the fact that we have so many single moms who work at all these agencies, they relate to each other. So when a single mom comes in for any assistance, she says a couple words and that caseworker's like, oh, I understand. I've been through that too. Well, we want to have some single dads who can make our dads feel just as comfortable when they come in. Like, yeah, sir, I understand exactly where you're coming from. And then there's, you know what I mean? You get more participation. You get more of a willingness to even want to attend programs, because a lot of times when dads are attending these or going through certain agencies and participating in programs, it benefits the child as well. Because they may go through therapeutic groups with the child, talking things. It benefits the child just as much as it benefits the child if mom goes through these programs.
All right, thank you. Now, in your experience, when children are limited or denied access to their children by the courts, the county, the human service systems, what is the impact on the children?
Well, I know through experience, talking to moms and who may come to me, especially when I was a peer counselor, moms would come to me telling me about problems that they had, with their kids. A lot of times with their sons, behavioral problems, very aggressive behavior, failing in school, wanting to, not pay attention, and just all these negative outcomes. And a lot of times it's due to anger. These kids, we have to understand that just as much as we promote mom, and when we think of mom, we think of hugs and kisses and, and pats on the heads and encouragement and things of this sort. And we need to start thinking that way about dad too, because dad does the same thing. So when he's missing that child who loves dad, that child who doesn't know all the bad stuff about dad that mom knows or the system knows, that child who just knows that that's my dad, where's he at? Why is he not here? There are even instances when a kid will get in trouble and dad comes around, they call dad when he gets in trouble. And so the kid starts to associate getting in trouble with being able to see my dad. And so they would, especially if mom says, I'm going to call your dad. You keep it up. I'm going to call your dad. And he's like, good. And he just starts doing more somersaults until dad gets there. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of, there's even data. I mean, there's professional data. There have been so many conferences and the TEDx, speeches about this issue. ACEs, speaks about the same thing. We have enough data. We have enough proof to show that dad's absence negatively affects the child.
See, and people don't understand. They think children are like linear in their thinking and their behavior. And one of the things I've become really attuned to is these situations where fathers have supervised visits or limited visits, and then they get an hour, and then the children act up after the visit, and they're like, oh, well, it's because they had to visit with the father. And so we need to limit the visits, and we need to put more restrictions on the father. Like that happens routinely.
Yes.
So
And it's a shame.
what is happening when that happens? Like, just take a step back and think about it.
Right. Dad's about to go away. I'm not going to see him for another month or so. That's why the child's acting out, so I don't know. It's just so it's mind boggling, it's hard to even wrap your head around the fact that we're even having these conversations, that we have to specifically focus on doing something for dad. I mean, it just, I don't know.
So toward that end, what are some ways that you think the system can do better and work better for fathers?
Well, it is definitely going to be an uphill battle, but it's something that can be done. And there can definitely be, a full-fledged initiative with this. As I said earlier, incorporating single fathers into these agencies. I know for a fact, when I work for the Human Services, they do make those accommodations for single moms. They do specifically have jobs for single moms. They bring single moms into these agencies as well. A lot of times through community service, they'll start community service work while they're going through workforce development. And then eventually they start to work in the agency. They can do the same thing for dads. We need to have dads presence in these agencies. We need to have men presence in these agencies. And there's a whole mind shift that has to take. So I think there needs to be a lot more, I'll say, workshops in regards to men, our dad empowerment workshops, where we sit down with our caseworkers, our therapists, and we make it clear, what have you done in the last week? And I mean, have frequent evaluations of interactions with fathers. Like I said, this has to be a blatant effort. Even situations where I come into an agency for assistance, there should be questionnaires or evaluations right there on the desk. So when I leave from that desk, I could fill it out in regards to, well, how were you greeted? What was the service provided? And these things are immediately addressed when they're producing a negative outcome, because like I said, there's a resistance. My last job in Philadelphia, I was what's called a customer engagement specialist. And what it was is they threw together a pilot program because there was a major drop in client participation as far as a lot of the programs. So they put together a team of us. Our job was to go to very high-risk neighborhoods many times, to go to specific individuals who were scheduled to go to programs, and we would bring resource packets. We would explain what resources were available, what the benefits to them were, and it actually increased program participation. I think that same effort has to be taken in regards to single dads. We know who these single dads are. A lot of single dads may be receiving SNAP, or they may not be receiving a lot of benefits, but they're getting SNAP and health insurance. So we know how to identify who they are. Let's make specific programs, training programs, and not just about providing jobs. You have to understand as well, if you have an individual who's never had a job before, he's 24, 25, he has a child, mom's not around or whatever, you can't just throw him into a job and expect them to, okay, we'll see you later. No, you have to monitor this right here. You have to provide some type of life skills training to provide, or at least teach the culture of a work environment. Teach things like conflict resolution and stress management. So the first time your supervisor or boss comes in with an attitude and says something out of the way to you, you don't fly off the handle, because you're not going to keep your job long like that. So there has to be, like I said, an extra effort. It has to be blatant, and it has to be intentional.
One thing I advocate for is every organization, county, children and youth, and the service providers, that they designate fatherhood specialists on their staff. And that doesn't take a lot of money. You don't need to throw a lot of money in that. You just need to say, okay, who's oriented that way? Who can we identify that would be good?
Oh, man, that would be great.
And then provide them with some of the things you're talking about, the training and all of that, and then have them be the conduit and be the person that helps with difficult fathers, okay, this is the person we're going to be able to, make sure they're, the most skilled at working with the challenging fathers, whatever way it may be. As well as being the person within the organization who brings these things in and keeps the pulse going and talks about it and keeps fathers
Right.
on everyone's minds. So that's one thing I speak about, and I'm hopeful we can get there and have some movement on that.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
it's tangible things like this that we need to do, again, on behalf of the children. Because,
Yes.
when fathers are unnecessarily marginalized or kept out of the children's lives, again, the children are the ones who suffer for it.
It's apparent. I mean, if we just open our eyes a little bit, we'll see the behaviors of our kids. We can ride past some of these high schools after school and see the behaviors of our kids. Like, it's anger, it's confusion. Like I said, some dads have been frustrated to the point, and I don't think I'd ever get to that point, but I don't judge anyone who does. Some dads have been frustrated to the point where they just literally just fall out of their kids' lives, period, because it's too complicated. It causes too many problems. They've been locked up too many times. They've been lied on or whatever it is. So they just fall out of their lives completely. Now the kid is like, oh, something's wrong with me because my dad doesn't even want to come around, So we want to try. There's so much that would change, especially reaching our kids at such a young age, dealing with dad and mom, striving to help the family, whether they're together or not. They still have to raise this child together, helping them to raise the child together. We would see a change. We would definitely see a change, especially in the behaviors of our kids who are like high school age and things of this sort.
No doubt about it. We got about a minute left.
Okay.
To that point, it touches on pretty much every social issue that we face today. And there's a lot of money and a lot of programs and things people are doing to try to fix some things. But if we came back around and emphasized fatherhood and work to be able to do better, to engage those fathers who aren't engaged, and then allow those fathers who want to be in the lives of their children to be able to activate them, get them involved, get them engaged, or allow them to be involved. There's a whole lot of good and benefits that can come from that. So, Almalik, again, thank you very much, my friend.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm glad you came to the symposium. I'm hopeful that we can maybe work on some things moving forward and do some good for our children through fatherhood. So
absolutely. Well, I'm on board. I'm on board. And thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
All right. Have a good one.